This is Life in a Wine Bottle. I'm your host, Nelson Pizarro. In part one of our topic, winemaker, we have special guest Aaron Walker from Pali Wine Company. We discuss his background, how he got into wine, and how many bottles he just bottled last week. I guarantee you it's not as much as you thought it will be. Just joking, it's a lot of bottles. If you like what I'm doing here, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, iTunes, or Google Play channels. Follow us, like us on Instagram and on Facebook at Life in a Wine Bottle. Quick shout out to our sponsors, Castelli Family Vineyards, where you can taste the love of the wine. Follow and like them on Instagram at CastelliFE. Bespoke Maestro, they make elegant dresses and suits benefiting any occasion. Follow them on Instagram at Bespoke Maestro. San Diego Wine Tasting App. Easy to use, free to download, fun to find a new winery. Download the app today on Apple Store and Google Play. Search for San Diego Wine Tasting App. And also, Pali Wine Company. Make sure you visit Pali Wine Company. They have 5 different tasting rooms. They're located in Santa Barbara, Lompoc, San Diego, Little Italy, Anaheim, and Los Angeles. Follow and like them on Instagram and Facebook at Pali, P-A-L-I, Wine Co, C-O. And you can also follow Aaron Walker, winemaker, on his personal account at Wine is Good for You. That's actually a great username, Aaron. All right, let's move on to the show. You had a good week. The
Yeah.
bottling truck. How was the bottling truck?
Oh, bottling. Well, last week, so that was our last bottling for the season. You know, we do a lot of bottling this time of year, and it had every bottling run has hiccups and issues along. You know,
What kind of
during the
hiccups? People will love to hear what
process.
hiccups you guys have.
Well, it's something different every time, but I can plan everything down perfectly. You know, it's mainly, it usually comes down to supplies, but sometimes it's also winemaking. Sometimes the wine isn't ready, or we have a problem with our filter that we're trying to filter the wine right before we bottle. And
Mhm.
so this time it was more an issue. It's been a supply issue, getting our labels printed and shipped to us in time, as well as like our screw caps and the foils that go over the corks on some bottles. So,
Mhm.
with the pandemic stuff, supply chain
Yes.
things have been
Yeah.
interrupted, and especially if they're coming from overseas.
Mhm.
But even with our printer, who they're fairly local, they're in Anaheim. So they're not, we're on the Central Coast, so distance wise it's not coming from far, but they had issues. They're
Getting
super busy. This
there.
is a busy time
Yeah.
of year for them, and they had some parts, they were waiting on that they couldn't get for their printers.
Mhm.
And so that backed up just their ability to get us our labels in time. So they're printing the labels like throughout the night and trying to get them to us, knowing when our bottling dates are, and our bottling dates aren't flexible because we use a
Yeah.
mobile bottling line, and we book that like 6 months in advance.
Yeah,
And
they're
so
super busy.
yeah,
I mean, they're
exactly.
like that's actually a good business, but
It's
I always think in my mind, any business is a good business, but you have to have the right people.
well, yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? Because if something breaks down in the bottling, those guys have to, or girls, ladies have to know how to fix that right there,
Yeah,
or
and
you're screwed.
that's
Like
why I've never wanted to own our own bottling line at our winery, because you have to know that machine. It's not one machine; it's a lot of different machines that
yes,
have to
yes.
work in unison, and there's tons of moving parts, and
Uh-huh.
it's its own full-time job. So it's not something I want to take on. I'd rather outsource that and pay somebody to do that.
That's what we do here. So how many bottles was it this last week?
Oh, geez. So
Let's hear this. Let's hear
we
this little number.
we we talk more in terms of cases, not in
Okay,
bottles.
cases.
But I'll multiply by 12.
Uh-huh.
So on average, we're doing about 1,300 cases a day, and so that's about 15,000 bottles a day.
And how
And
many days
then
is that?
we typically run for about 3 days at a
Oh
time.
my goodness.
So we did about roughly 45,000 bottles in 3 days. Um,
Okay. And what do you consider? Are you considered a medium size?
Yeah.
You're considered medium, right?
We are. We're in case production. We're about around 25,000 cases produced a year,
Okay.
and that definitely is bigger than a small production winery.
All right.
But we're not a big boy either. We're not doing
Okay.
hundreds of thousands of cases. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
so that mid range, I think what qualifies as a medium sized winery is a pretty big range. But
Yeah.
we're still small and small enough that we're family owned and that all of the wine is made under one roof, under my direction with a small crew. I've got, 3 guys full time that work for me,
Okay.
four full time guys as we get into the busier time of year, and then during harvest we bring on another usually 4 guys or gals as seasonal help, to help out during the harvest.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now let's get into your background because I
Sure.
kind of skipped a little bit, but like I said, I'm gonna kind of introduce you with the introduction.
Yeah, I know we just jumped right in, but thank you.
But
Yeah.
I like to do it this way because a lot of times I can get the more audience stays, connected to it instead of
Gotcha.
just kind of, hey, this is who I am, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
This is the exciting part. I think people really enjoy hearing the bottling side, and especially in our area. And that was the main reason why I wanted to open up this podcast and grow it, is because we're living the life in a wine bottle. That's the
Yeah.
whole term that I came up with the name of it. So this is Aaron. What's your last name? I don't even know.
Walker.
Oh, Walker. Oh yeah, it's like the Texas Ranger, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, and everybody, to give you a little, just if you look at him, he's actually, what, you're like 7 foot.
Not quite.
You're
6'5".
like you're a giant, and a little bit. I guess I'll introduce you a little bit of how I met you. Our cousin, Josh Castelli, he said he knew a winemaker, which he always says he knows somebody. And he's like, oh, he wants to come up and check out the area because he's heard about Ramona. And you show up, and I remember it was raining. And I'm like, man, you're a big guy. So you're what, 6'6"?
6'5", yeah.
6'5", okay. And the funny part, I don't think that's the funny part. I think the funny part is that my cousin said he used to go to college, which I don't believe him at all. And he met you in college at a fraternity. Right. And I said, there's no way you just went there to party. That's so I think that's where it all started there. So somehow or another, years go past, you're still friends with them, and we got connected together. So this is how we got connected. And I'm going to share another little story down the road of after what happened when we met. But let me go ahead and talk a little bit about yourself. Just more how you started in the industry. Like,
Sure.
Were you part of the wine industry? Winemaker, why did you become a winemaker? A little bit about your family, and where you at locally. Okay. I want them to understand how many places you guys have in the area in California.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot of ground to cover. So but I can start with with Josh, your cousin Josh Castelli. He and I did meet over 20 years ago in college together, and we've always stayed in touch, and we still talk, hang out with the same group of friends, and we're in the same fantasy football league and all that, so but he actually he was contacting me quite a bit when you guys were first planting that vineyard, because he just had a lot of questions, and as you know, Josh, he's always got a lot of questions. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it was fun to be I was able to. I feel like I have a little bit of a connection to your guys' project, because he was, we were on the phone quite a bit in the early days when you guys were first getting started, and so so it was fun coming down to finally meet you and to see the vineyard and to taste the wines a few years back when you and I first connected. But
yeah, I don't even. That's probably 2 or 3 years, 4 years ago.
I think that was 2015 actually. So we're going on 5 years now. Yeah,
and
I know.
And then also the information that you gave them, like before that, I don't think you know this, but before that, they got information from somewhere else, and what they did was they had 1-gallon pots, and I don't think you told them this. Okay, I'm pretty confident you did. I'm sure you said, hey, buy vines, from a nursery, but they actually got pots. They put the sticks in, the cuttings, and they left them there. And what happened was they said, hey, Nelson, do you want to help me? This is how it all started. And I said, sure. But I said, they put it in front of their house, my father-in-law's house, the property. And I said, Mike, that doesn't seem like a good idea, because they literally just put pots next to each other, no spacing, and the roots grew straight through the pots. And I'm like, what are you supposed to do? He's like, oh, you just pick them up and plant them. I'm like, no, the roots are straight through. So literally they had to dig every single one underneath with the pots.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was just a waste of time. Basically, that's what I'm
Sounds like a
trying to
lot of
get to.
work. Yeah.
Yes, it was like,
That's how you learn.
yes, I said, what did I get myself into? So I know you gave the better advice of saying buy the actual the cut or the roots, already root system,
You get it
year
from a
old,
nursery.
a
Yeah.
nursery, so. Okay,
Exactly.
so now let's do a little bit about your family. What man? You have
Well,
two?
so yeah, I mean, it all kind of ties back to San Diego. So I grew up in Southern California and then in the LA area, but moved to San Diego to go to college at San Diego State, starting in 2000 or starting in 1993 to age myself. But
Oh,
a- after changing majors about 3 times, I settled on a liberal studies degree for teaching, and so obviously it has nothing to do with winemaking, right? But I get out of college and I'm not using my degree. I decide not to go into teaching, and instead I start waiting tables downtown San Diego in the Gaslamp district, and I get a job as a waiter, part of the opening crew of a restaurant, a French concept restaurant downtown, which is no longer there. But I ended up working there for 5 years, and they gave us a lot of great training and on food and wine, and that's what sparked the interest for me for wine, was working at that specific restaurant, and I got exposed to not only information but wines, and got to taste them, and just the bug, I got bit.
yeah.
I Once I started to learn a little bit, I wanted to know more, and I wanted to know more, and so it just naturally was something I just kind of gravitated towards. It wasn't something I set out to do. At the same time, I met this cute little girl there that was a hostess, and we ended up getting married 10 years later. So that's now my wife. So
Is
so
she
that
from
one
San
restaurant,
Diego? Is she
she
from San?
no, so she's from where we are now on the Central Coast,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and her father's actually in the wine business and has been for her whole life. So she grew
Ah,
up in the business up here in Santa Barbara County.
interesting.
Um, and so she and I moved up to this area in 2006 from San Diego after we'd been dating for about 5 years. Um, we moved up here together so that she could be back close to home.
Mhm.
At the same time, I was looking to make a change. I'd been working in restaurants, waiting tables, and was starting to look for my next step. And I was thinking about going into culinary school. I was looking around and starting to apply. But at the same time, Emily, my wife, not at the time, but now, she suggested, it was her idea, that her dad could probably introduce me to some people if I wanted to work a harvest position, because the wineries are always hiring
Especially at this time.
for
Well,
harvest
I
help,
guess
as
for
you
you
know.
guys are more in September-ish,
Right, but we start
October.
doing all,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's all that general same
Yes.
period of the year. But it's not long term work, but it's a great way to get your foot in the door. And so sure enough, we came up. I interviewed. I poked around, talked to some people. I was offered two different, two small wineries offered me a harvest position, and I chose the one I chose. I was very happy with, called Bonacorsi Wine Company, and so that was my foray, my first step into winemaking. And so I was just basically a cellar rat, or an
And then
intern.
the harvest. So yeah, so people don't know, harvest is you basically do all the dirty work,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Cleaning, picking, but you're not hiring other employees. You're just physically doing the labor, correct?
Yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah,
So
ninety
people
percent of
know that because I know you're not considered huge, but I don't think people understand in this area because we're 3 to 5 acres. You're a couple a couple bigger acres than us.
yeah,
Um,
few.
so um, everybody's a cellar rat and a winemaker and a marketer and
Oh yeah,
a
yeah.
labor, everything,
A lot of different hats to be worn.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, exactly. Okay, so you started that and you enjoyed the process, I assume.
I loved it.
The picking and just being with,
The
outside.
hands-on, yeah, all of it, the connection, the hands-on. I mean, I know, it,
We
the
just picked
reward.
yesterday, just to let you know. We just picked yesterday.
Oh, you did? Yeah, we're picking our first grapes on Thursday.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we picked V&A yesterday.
Nice. We're picking some Pinot Gris.
Oh, nice.
I just
Okay.
went out this morning to sample the vineyard, but yeah, we're gonna. So yeah, we finished bottling last week, and we're starting harvest this week.
Just like that. Okay.
Couldn't have planned it better, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay, so you got into
So I
The
moved up to this area. I decided this is something I want to continue in doing after that first harvest. And so I quickly found work with a number of other small winemakers in this area, small producers. And then about a year later is when I got a job working for Pali Wine Company, who I'm with now. So that was 2007. So I'm getting ready to start my 14th harvest with Pali this year. And I'm now the director of winemaking. So I've been promoted from above winemaker. I started out as, an assistant winemaker officially, but basically I was just a cellar rat, or, when I got hired by Pali in 2007. And so we've grown. The winery itself was started in 2005. So, it was pretty early on in the company, in the business, when I joined the team. And
it's perfect timing for you.
it was, and I saw an opportunity because at the time the wines were being made by a guy named Brian Loring of Loring Wine Company, and that was only meant to be a short-term thing for a few years. And so at the time, the owners of Pali were building a winery, their own custom winery, which we're still in today. And so I saw that that they were planning on growing, and they were going to need somebody to take over and do the work and run the show. And so I stuck around. They couldn't get rid of me, and so sure enough, they put a lot of trust into me. And so I was given a consulting winemaker to work under starting in 2008. And he lives in Sonoma, and he's still part of the team today. So he's still very much involved. But the early part of our relationship back in '08, and for the first few years, he was really my mentor. He was showing me what to do, how to make the wines. We were constantly talking every day during harvest, sending spreadsheets back and forth with information. And so I got a real, I learned by trial by fire. I was thrown into it. I was asked to start running the cellar starting in 2008, and
no schooling,
not a degree. So excuse me,
physical, like school.
Well, I did start taking,
school.
That was most of it. That's how I learned most of what I've done. But a lot of self-learning, reading, picked up a lot of books. Also,
to other winemakers and
a lot of
owners,
asking questions.
Vintners,
Taken some classes at Davis through their extension program on the weekends and online. So I've taken classes here and there to learn the more technical stuff that I was having trouble learning on my own. And but it's more than anything, it's just getting hands dirty and asking a lot of questions. But experience, you can't learn anything. You can't learn winemaking without actually doing it. You need that experience to start developing that instinct of just when to pick, or how much, when to put water on the vines, or how much water they need, or when to stop watering. Little decisions like that, you can't just learn in a book. You have to develop a sense for it. And same thing in the cellar too, in winemaking.
Yeah, you have to live it.
Right, it. Yeah, exactly.
Crazy. Yeah.
It's been a great ride. I've been very, very happy with Pali.
There's another winery of neighbor that just purchased a house that happened to have a vineyard, and they have no clue, nothing. And we're trying to help them out. And they just didn't realize like the work involved. Yeah. And then they just said, I can't complain about buying a $50 bottle of wine now. Because it's like crazy. Now, that's coming from a small winery or boutique winery, they're like, no wonder, because you guys probably don't make any money. I said, yeah, that's probably true for the first 50 years. Hopefully, the 6 years, if we're still alive, you can make some money. So, it's kind of interesting when people physically do that. And I like what you said, that you fell in love with it, the labor of love. I feel like that's the biggest thing that wine gives you. It's not so much like the beer or spirits or just hard liquor. Wine, it's something, it's like a culture, it's a livelihood, and you can really expand beyond wine. And it's always somebody knows somebody that's a winemaker, or somebody has a friend that works in a vineyard, or it's really the weirdest thing, And then once they know that you're part of it, there's nonstop questions. They're just like, oh, you're a winemaker? Oh, okay. What about this one? Or what do you do here? Oh, I would love to have a vineyard. And this is specifically why I did the podcast. Everybody come in the tasting room, they'll always say, oh, this is my dream. I want to just live on a vineyard. Obviously, you guys don't live on a vineyard, right? You're not
right.
Vineyards are, you're more in the city, and then the vineyards are out in the country, I assume.
Right. We live in a small town. I wouldn't call it a city, but yeah, we're about 15 minutes from the vineyards where we live. So we're not living on the vineyard. Yeah.
close enough. And then what's your specific title then? I know you said director of winemaking, and what does that mean?
Thank you. That's actually brand new. I was just given
So you
the
just
own.
made it up?
No, no, I just gave it to myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, I do that to myself too, but go ahead.
No, I don't have that kind of power. So I report. I'm one of four people or directors of the company that report to the owner. So
Okay.
we've got our CEO, is his name is Tim Purr. Um, so I was named winemaker in 2010,
Okay.
after having worked 3 years
10
at Pali,
years. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
which to
You're
me at
doing
the
a good
time was
job. You're
was
doing a
very
good job,
quick, and
obviously.
I was actually very nervous to even have that title that quickly because
Mhm,
there's a lot of pressure there. But
mhm. And what do you do specifically? That title, what does that mean?
it involves a lot. There's,
Yeah.
like you were saying, it's, I mean, sometimes I'm taking out the trash, but it's,
You're overseeing everything.
but well, so now as we've gone on and we've grown as a company,
Mhm.
the owner reorganized a little bit, and just last week, my title's been changed to director of winemaking operations because he's got a vision for, my position as well as the three
Yeah,
other
the other
directors.
ones. Uh-huh.
And so my area of responsibility is all production, is making sure all the wines get made and that everything is of quality, and before it goes into the bottle, things like that. So I'm in the early days, I was very hands-on. I was getting my hands dirty all the time with the actual winemaking, and I was doing a lot of the grunt work, the cleaning, and that's what I got. I enjoy about the work. That's what got me
Yeah.
kind of into it. But as the years have gone on, I still liked, I still get out into the vineyards to check on things myself. But as far as when it comes time to crush the grapes or to clean the machines, I've got a crew that does that for me now, which is great. It's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
But we're still very small, so I'm still pitching in where I need to. I'm driving the truck, I'm picking up grapes at the vineyard and hauling them into the winery. We have our own vineyard. Actually, we have two, but locally here, we've got a 50-acre vineyard planted in Santa Rita Hills, which I oversee, and then we've got a vineyard management company that does the actual farming. But I'm always out, not always, but I'm out there and making sure everything's being run and that the grapes are being grown the right way, and making decisions on when to pick and all that.
Okay. So
Um,
overall, you basically take care from springtime, the pruning side of it, finding the help, workers, everything you need, and then to the bottling slash making the wine.
Yeah, so my real area comes once the grapes are picked and brought into the winery. I run the cellar and the production side of things. So
Okay.
so as far as the farming, I just make sure that the right people, that the people that know what they're doing are doing their
Okay.
job the right way. They've got their own crews, so I don't actually run the farming crews.
Okay.
We outsource that to a vineyard management company. I work directly with our vineyard manager to coordinate whatever needs to
Sure.
be done.
Everything. Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's an ongoing thing throughout the year. We coordinate, we talk about how to prune each year in case we want to make changes. It's constant meeting and just making sure that we're on the right track. So but for me, my area, my crew, my staff is responsible for making the wine and getting it into the bottle ultimately. So
Okay.
from crushing the grapes
Which is
all
the
the way,
biggest responsibility, if you really.
it's all important. It all
Yeah.
goes together,
Nah,
right?
I don't know, because if they don't like the wine, then they're not coming back
That's
at the
true.
end of the day.
And then beyond that, once the wine's bottled, we have 5 tasting rooms throughout Southern California, and so I'm also expected to make appearances or do educational type things in our tasting rooms with our staff and with our customers. And
Okay. So that's
so
perfect. That was the next part, because you gave a great background. You gave us how you got involved. You gave us what exactly you do. Um, Now let's go for Pali, because it's not just Pali; it's also Tower uh,
15.
15, Tower 15. Sorry,
That's all right.
Tower 15. Talk to us a little bit about that. So you have 5 of them, and these are tasting rooms. How big would you say? How much production do you keep in each one? Is there one bigger than another? I know people like to hear about that. Like.
Yeah. So if you want to, well, so wineries are only allowed one tasting room that's not at their actual place of production.
I didn't
So
know that.
yeah, so this is what makes it
Okay,
tricky. So unlike
interesting.
breweries are licensed for 5 locations off one permit, and wineries only get one satellite location off of a production permit. And so we've had to actually create small winemaking spaces as tasting rooms, like
Ah,
in San Diego and Little Italy, also in Anaheim. Both of those locations are licensed and bonded for winemaking, and we make a little bit of wine at each of those locations each year just to keep the license
to keep
up.
it. Yeah, moving.
But that allows us to expand and have multiple tasting rooms. So we've grown to the point where we've got 5 currently, but we may expand on that when things recover and the economy is doing better. Um,
I
so
didn't know that. I didn't. So which one was the one that you used for the cellar where you're at, and then the tasting room that you wanted to go to? Is there?
so I don't even that's somebody
Oh, that's
else's
somebody else. Oh,
area.
okay.
I don't have that. I don't get into the. We have somebody that handles all of our legal
I
stuff.
bet that seems pretty, complicated.
Yeah, so I just need to make sure that if we're supposed to be making wine at a location, I got to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
And a lot of times all that means is you don't have to actually even ferment on site. You just have to store the wine in barrels, let it age in barrel, and that's considered winemaking. And then you fill some kegs out of that barrel.
Yeah.
So that qualifies. That's all the ABC cares about, as far as
It's just a hassle because you got to bring it there, then you're gonna bring it up, right, to
it
bottle.
is. It's a hassle, but you turn it into a show for the guests. They love to see that.
People love it. Yeah, people
Exactly.
love the process. They think you're gonna stomp with your grapes.
Well, we've done that too.
They think that's the normal. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But because I physically think it's a lot of time, and also then I wasted just the grapes that I just grew. I don't have that type of grapes to just like waste, right? Um,
Right, right.
okay, so you got the, so people know in the area you're in downtown Little Italy, which is a cool spot. We went there. We just popped in there one time with my wife, and the guy's like, "Hey, do I know you?" I'm like, probably not. And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I know you. Are you Pizarro?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, yeah, yeah. I played soccer against you."
I was gonna say, yeah.
Somebody tell you. So it's a small world, and that wasn't the winemaking side of it. So that came in with my soccer background that I used to do.
Right.
And then you have Anaheim, so that's number 2. Then what else? Which are the other 3?
So downtown LA in the Arts District, that's our
Okay.
newest location.
Oh, nice.
And then our original location in Santa Barbara, in downtown Santa Barbara, in the what they call the Funk Zone.
Okay.
And then we've got a very small tasting room in Lompoc, which is where the winery is located. Separate location from the winery, but in the same town. And that's only open 4 days a week because it's a much smaller, less trafficked area. So we opened the Santa Barbara tasting room 8 years ago and discovered that we really liked the concept of being in an urban setting, like downtown setting. And just that's when we decided we wanted to try it out in another downtown urban area that wasn't close to a wine country.
Mhm.
And rather than being surrounded by a bunch of other wineries and tasting rooms, we were looking for just vibrant neighborhoods that were maybe going through transition, and that's what we found in Little Italy. And being we're half a block from Ballast Point Brewery, and we feed off that kind of business and traffic. And so we expanded. We looked for the same type of locations when we continued to open other in LA and Anaheim,
Mhm.
and it's worked really well. It's become they're very much like um, like a local pub for a lot of people. The people that live in the neighborhood, we have a lot of regulars that come in, and they come in all the time, and they keep coming back. And that's how we build, wine club membership, which is great. And
Yeah, yeah, that's what we go after, right? That's kind of the loyalty. That
that's exactly that's the golden goose.
you get the loyalty from those customers. Have you seen one do better than others? Is there any?
Yeah, they've gone up and down. The Santa Barbara one was very successful for a long time, and then something happened a few years ago where I think the neighborhood became oversaturated. There was too much competition, where we really kind of sales really started to decline. And then we've brought it back, but it was interesting seeing just the trend of that. San Diego actually has done amazing for us, and it continues to,
It's a
even through
good
this
area.
pandemic.
I mean, you're like in a really good spot. So
We are,
people
and
downtown, yeah, that's a super nice spot there.
we're very, very happy that we chose that area. That was about 4 years ago now. And we were looking at in Solana in the Cedros district in Solana Beach there. There's another winery there, Caruth Cellars, that he's done very well. And so I remember talking to him, and meeting, just trying to, anyways, we scoped out different areas, but ultimately Stacy, our marketing director, she was convinced that Little Italy was the place to be. And
Yes,
I
sir.
didn't put up a fight on that at all because I'm very happy it's there. It gives me a chance to go down to San Diego on a regular basis now and go visit with friends from college or whatever, and
Yeah.
but also get a chance to promote Pali and do my thing down there. So.
Yeah, that's really good. And I know, and I guess for guests to know why, another connection we got from here is because you're looking to get grapes too within the area. You
Right.
try to get something local. Are you still doing that? Is it
No, it
too hard?
became logistically too much of a hassle.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I assume, and I don't think people understand because like the ones that do not have wineries or vineyards, you're basically telling somebody, hey, you got to drive down here, pick up grapes, the stem, use somebody else's equipment, which it might not be your preference. Everybody has their own the stem or
Yeah.
the stem crush, whatever it is. And then you got to somehow bring that to your place in downtown. I don't know if you have a forklift, which you might.
Nope.
Okay, no forklift. So you're going to try to move 2,000 pounds down from a macro bin just to
Right.
do 2 barrels, just to say these are Ramona grapes. Um, so I can see how complicated it can get. And people don't, I know you try to support and things like that, but logistically, it doesn't make sense. In time, you know.
Yeah, that one year that when I came down and met with you, and we ended up buying we got one pick from Emerald
Emerald Creek.
Emerald Creek. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's out there.
way out by like Warner Springs or
Yes,
something.
they're a big winery. That's probably why you're like, forget this.
And
Yeah,
then we
that's
took the grapes, had them. They picked like three tons for us or something of Cab Franc, and then shipped those grapes back up, up to our winery in Lompoc, and we made the wine up there. So we didn't deal with what
oh.
you're talking about, trying to get them all off unloaded by
But
hand.
then now you got to pay for the shipping,
Right. Oh yeah.
you
And
know, and it's hot
exactly.
there in that area. Obviously,
No
closer
kidding.
to you guys, it's a little bit cooler. But where you're
Yeah.
at, that's like hot.
But
That's
yeah, we did all that just to say we had San Diego County grapes,
yeah,
and because of our Little Italy location, we wanted to offer that. But we did it just the one year, and we decided
yeah, yeah. It didn't make any
that's
sense.
all right. We're good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So people know that they tried. It just logistically, it's not working unless you do a facility down here.
We got enough going on with all the
Yeah.
different wines we make up here. You start talking about Tower 15 Winery too, and that's our other brand. We've got Pali, which is just Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, and then Tower 15 is our other brand where we produce all other kinds of varieties under that label. Anything we want really. And so that keeps us pretty busy. And I work with about 20 to 25 different vineyards each year purchasing grapes. So not only do we grow
That's
our own.
crazy. That is.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it's a lot to juggle. I end up having about 70 different lots, or throughout the harvest I'll have about 70 different picks and individual fermentation lots that I have to manage.
And then you have your personal, which you said you had 50 acres roughly for one of them.
Right. So Pali, we own and operate 50 acres in Santa Rita Hills and another 22 acres in Sonoma that we planted both those vineyards in 2012. And so that provides us a majority of our Pinot Noir that we produce under Pali.
Okay.
Any other varieties, like everything that goes into Tower 15 wines, those are all purchased grapes because we're not growing anything besides Pinot or Chardonnay on our own properties.
Oh wow! And then what are you doing? A lot of blends, or
We're
what's
doing,
outside of it? Yeah.
yeah, with Pinot Noir, we don't blend, except, maybe we'll blend some vineyards together, but we never blend Pinot Noir with any other variety, which is pretty typical. Under
Wait,
Tower
I'll tell you a
15,
story about
uh,
that too after this. I'll tell you a story
yeah,
after the Pinot. I guess I'll tell you right now because then we'll forget.
go ahead, yeah.
So we planted grapes here, and I don't know if I told you this, but we planted Pinot. We have a Pinot here, and the winemaker that was teaching us, he was like, "Hey, these grapes don't look like Pinot, but if you say they're Pinot, it is what it is." And we are doing it. We picked the grapes. We did all our fermentation, all that good stuff. And then probably in October time, he said, "Hey Nelson, come to my vineyard." I go to his place, which is 2 miles away or 3 miles. I walk through his rows. He's like, "Hey, what do you think about these grapes?" I said, "Well, they look like Pinot, like our grapes." He's like, "Yeah, that's the problem. This vineyard is here for 20 years, and I never had a Pinot here." I'm like, "What else?" He says, "Cabernet Sauvignon." So we had our first year, 2012, we made a Pinot and Cab Sauvignon varietal. And he called me probably a year ago, and he's like, "Hey, do you know that blend that we made? Cabernet Pinot. I said, yeah. What's up? He's like, do you have any more bottles? I said, why? He's like, that was a good wine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was like just out of nowhere. But I thought that was kind of funny because you said specifically Pinots do not get blend, not even topping off the wine. You don't want to use anything else besides a Pinot.
Exactly.
So people don't know that. Okay, so you do your Pinot. Now you're going into Chardonnay. You blend Chardonnays from different vineyards, or you keep it from your own?
These days we grow enough Chardonnay for we don't have to purchase any Chardonnay grapes. So we grow about 6 acres of Chardonnay on our property, and that's enough. Chardonnay is not a huge seller for us, but we do end up making a little bit in a sparkling champagne style, and then we make a traditional, still wine Chardonnay out of it. But what's interesting is that area, the Santa Rita Hills, produces amazing Chardonnays. It's just there's not a huge market for it. There's not a lot of people that buy Chardonnay, especially from our area. And to grow Chardonnay in the Santa Rita Hills, we got to charge, $30 to $40 a bottle to make our money back, just to break even, really. And there's not a lot of people out there spending that kind of money on a Chardonnay from our area, even though they're beautiful Chardonnays. They're very similar to French white Burgundies, Chablis, that are, if you like, are very acid driven, high mineral Chardonnay that doesn't need to be covered up with a bunch of new oak. And we typically don't put it fully through malolactic fermentation either. We like to retain a lot of that crisp acidity in the Chardonnay because it's just a very, very fun, bright, like I said, acid and mineral driven wine. So anyway, yeah, Pinot Noir is pretty popular and pretty much the king of the grapes in our area in Santa
Yep.
Rita Hills, because that's what sells. But the Chardonnay is, a lot of people think the Chardonnays are even better than the Pinots in our area.
That was the end of part one. Topic winemaker with Aaron Walker from Pali Wine Co. Make sure to tune in to part two, where he shares some secrets and gives us advice to new and experienced winemakers. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, iTunes, Google Play channels, and also like us on Facebook and Instagram at Life in a Wine Bottle. Thank you very much for listening. I'm your host, Nelson Pizarro. This is Life in a Wine Bottle. See you guys next week.